Your monthly subscription box from Postflybox.com includes all the materials needed to tie a dozen flies, along with some extra goodies. A Quill Gordon dry fly tied Catskill style is about as classic and elegant a pattern as there is. To begin, pick up one of the size 14 hooks and secure it firmly in the jaws of your tying vise. Load a bobbin with the spool of rust-colored uni thread. Get the thread started on the hook shank, leaving an eye-length space behind the eye. After taking a few wraps rearward, snip the excess tag end off close. Then, relocate your tying thread to 1/3 of the way down the hook shank from the back edge of the hook eye. For the fly's wings, select a single mallard flank feather and strip the lower webby fibers off of the stem. Ideally, you want the tips of the remaining fibers to form a nearly straight line. Pull the fibers on both sides of the feather down to expose the tip and then snip it off close, leaving a V-shaped notch. Orient the feather so the shiny side is facing you, and then fold the fibers on either side of the stem up and together. These fibers should naturally separate and splay outward like so. Measure to form wings a hook shank plus the eye in length, then transfer that measurement forward to the tie-in point. Using a pinch wrap, secure the fibers to the top of the hook shank and make a few more touching wraps rearward. Pull the fibers up and back and use your thread to create a small dam in front of them so they're held up in a nearly vertical position. Move your thread to behind the wings and continue binding down the butts. Lift the remaining ends up and snip them off at a shallow angle. You may need to do a little extra trimming to smooth the transition down to the hook shank. Position your thread at the back edge of the wings, then separate the fibers into 2 equal-sized clumps. Take cross wraps to further separate the fibers. Pull the wings back and take a wrap around just the hook shank to effectively save your work. Follow this with another cross wrap and a turn around the hook shank. Finally, complete a figure 8 between the 2 wings to lock them in position. With the wings set, continue taking thread wraps rearward, binding the butt ends down all the way to the hook point. From the front, the wings should look something like this. Select one of the long-fibered brown Indian neck feathers and strip off the lower really webby soft fibers. On one side of the feather, pull about a dozen fibers down so they're perpendicular to the stem, and while holding them by their tips, pull on the stem to strip the fibers free. Ideally, the tips should stay fairly aligned throughout the process. Pass the butt ends of the fibers to your right hand. Measure to form a tail a hook shank in length, then secure the fibers to the top of the shank all the way back to the start of the bend. Use the very tips of your tying scissors to snip the butt ends of the fibers off close. Get hold of one end of a length of the brown tie floss. Place the end against the near side of the hook and take thread wraps to secure it. Allow thread torque to push the material to the far side of the hook as you bind it down all the way to the base of the tail. Take open spiral wraps up the shank with your tying thread and position it about an eye length behind the wings. Start making touching wraps with the floss up the hook shank to form a slightly tapered body on the fly. When you reach your tying thread, use it to anchor the floss and snip the excess off close. A single brown hackle feather is used to hackle the fly. With the shiny side facing you, strip away most of the lower webby fibers. Then, strip away a few more fibers from the top edge of the stem. This will help the hackle to wrap correctly after it's been tied in. Snip the butt end off, leaving about 1/8 of an inch of bare stem. Lay this against the near side of the hook and take thread wraps to secure it all the way up to the back edge of the hook eye. Get hold of the hackle feather's tip and start making touching wraps with it, 2 or 3 behind the wings, then another 2 or 3 in front. Use your tying thread to firmly anchor the hackle tip behind the hook eye. Once done, snip the excess off close. To finish the fly, complete a 4 or 5 turn whip finish, seat the knot well, and snip your tying thread free. The Quill Gordon dry fly is a great pattern for learning how to tie flies, as it includes numerous techniques that can be used while tying a multitude of other patterns.